Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale here. This is the Midtown Madness podcast. Pete, this week it got a little more stressful than it needed to be, especially during the VCU game. But the Billikens got the results they needed. Unfortunately, Richmond didn't do their part, and I didn't have to eat a large spicy pepperoni pizza.
You didn't, and maybe for the people who missed that little Twitter exchange, maybe you want to fill them in on what that is in reference to.
Okay, so essentially, I have had the Pizza Hut Spicy Lovers pepperoni pizza living rent free in my head since what's his name? Who's the guy?
Craig
Who's
Robinson.
Craig Robinson's commercial on TV. I think it was the Super Bowl commercials when they dropped it. So it's been living rent free in my head since then. I like pizza, but I love like crushed red pepper on pizza. Like I will pile it on like I did today. I had a pizza today, and I piled on the crushed red pepper. But so my idea was like I want to eat this pizza, but I want to have an excuse to. So I said if the Billikens get the double bye, which needed Richmond win and a Billiken win, I would eat a large spicy pepperoni pizza. And it was requested by a couple people to stream it live. I was happy to do it because I in many ways I'm a showman, or at least I consider myself to be like a person who just likes to do things for just the hell of it. And if people want to see it, whatever, that's fun. I just like entertaining. But yeah, so I did, my digestive system is very happy. Um, the only thing it had to deal with this weekend was beer. So it made it through. But before we get going, I definitely want to acknowledge the DPS officer who passed recently, Henry Owens. I thought it was a very well done ceremony, or at least a well planned ceremony. Having his family there was awesome, and having all the DPS officers um, coming out, it was very nice. Did they stream it at all, or did you miss it?
If they did, I missed it, but I did see a lot of like Coach Ford and a lot of other people, Earl, some other people were doing little remembrances on Twitter, just kind of saying their little piece. And yeah, I didn't know him, but seemed like a really well liked guy, well respected guy within the community. So definitely sorry to hear about his passing.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great DPS officers that have come through that the school. I mean, and the area. I mean, you got like I'll just shout out names: Otten, Sheets, all great guys. That's the ones I can think of right now off my head. But they're just really, really good people, and of course, I have a special place in my heart for all of them for making sure I don't get arrested, or I didn't get arrested in college at games. So, much love to them. Also, I want to shout out Bob Ramsey. Um, just an amazing supporter of this show. I can't thank him enough. You know, he, I've listened to him my whole life. You've listened to him for most of your life. I mean, probably all your life. I don't know when he started, but like, I mean, he is just an absolute legend, and to have him impart any wisdom and any compliment towards us is mind boggling. So I definitely want to thank him for all his support.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't Rammer and Earl recently have their like 30-year,
I think
because
so.
if that's the case, then I have no recollection of anything before those two. So yeah, it really is the only voices I associate with SLU hoops over the years, listening to those broadcasts. So yeah, nothing but love and respect for Rammer.
And you and I, while we have an age gap of 5 or 6 years, I think, but um, we also, we both grew up in a time where it was all radio on the road. Like for the most part on the road, you had radio unless we were playing on ESPN. So, I mean, most nights there was a Billiken Road game. We were either watching the game tracker, we were watching game trackers and listening to Earl and Rammer.
Yeah, I think we take a lot of the streaming things for granted. Like that's very, very recently. It's not that long ago where I have to think about like, oh yeah, before like the ESPN Plus boom, I was, bootlegging streams wherever I could out of whatever weird Eastern European like host sites we could find them on. Shout out to anybody on billikens.com who helped in that endeavor. And then yeah, like radio and not even game track. I mean, game trackers aren't all that they were pretty raw before. I mean, we're talking about like refreshing box scores and stuff, man. So yeah, Earl and Rammer, those voices, man, have gotten me through a lot of road games over the year. I even have like fond memories of like 10 years ago this fall, my wife and I took like a 3-month road trip between St. Louis before we moved back to Cincinnati for the last time. And we were like we were out in the mountains and like camping all over the country. And there were nights where like I would have like an earbud in trying to get a signal on my phone, and usually I could get some audio listening to Earl and Rammer, under the stars and stuff. I remember games like that, man. So yeah, those voices and they've just been doing such a good job for so long with it. So it's always flattering when you get compliments from the big guys.
Yeah, I mean, he sat there and watched the game with me for the baseball game for 4 innings. Anybody who can sit with me at a baseball game for 4 innings and chat with me is special in my book, because I mean, the fact that you can sit here for an hour and talk to me is an absolute endurance trial on your part. But no, he just is an absolute gem to talk to, and I just appreciate his friendship and his mentorship in the way, in whatever way he offers his support. So definitely love Bob and Earl too. Just wonderful human beings. Besides broadcasters. Um, One more thing before we get rolling, I just want to talk to you guys about Wheelhouse Bicycle Shop in Creve Coeur. Whether you're looking for a triathlon bike like I recently was, or your kid's first bike, make Nathan Levanthal your first stop over at 770 North New Ballas Road in Creve Coeur. You can also check him out online at wheelhousebicycle.com. He runs that shop so well, and just is all about the customer. I mean, he helped me find a bike and made sure that I got the right bike for me. And I didn't even buy it from him, honestly. To be truthful, he loves bikes. He loves cycling, and he is a pro's pro over there. So go check him out, and support the show and support him. Let's talk about the week that was, Pete. An 80-74 win at Rhode Island. I love any road win in the conference. Makes me happy, Pete. And this, while we did have a double-digit lead at one point and allowed it to close back in, it wasn't like we really did. We didn't lose the second half in this one.
Yeah, any A10 road win makes me happy is also true for me. But like I wouldn't be upset if we kind of like took some pressure off of me in the second half
Yes.
and just made it easy. Like just make it easy on your fans, like just put a team away is something we just really haven't done much this year. Put a team away. And that was kind of the case here. Yeah, we did control most of the game, if you want to say that. You up 6 at half, and we wound up both putting up 41 in the second half. So what I'm trying to think, how big did the lead get? Was it early in the second half, maybe?
Yeah, it was 15. I think I looked at, because it's funny, in doing the prep work, I was like, did we give up a big lead in this one? And I looked back, I think it was 15 in the second half.
Yeah, so we did. To be perfectly fair, we we did give up a big lead, but yeah, we closed it out. We got it done. It's just it would have been nice to. I remember thinking like, oh wow, we really are. We're going to put them away in this one, aren't we? And I'm trying to find the point where it was the widest margin. It looks like maybe like here's a 58-43. I think that's it at the 13:08 mark in the second half. That's what I was
looking at. Yeah.
So we're at that point, +9 in the half. 7 minutes in, trending positively, playing well, and you're thinking like, okay, all right, like we're really gonna run away with this one. And of course, that's not the way it happened, unfortunately. But still got the win.
The big story in this one, I think, it ended up being the quad nickel for Yuri Collins. Surprisingly, because there were a lot of really positive games in this one, big games for Billikens in this one. But Yuri Collins kind of garners the headlines with the quad nickel, 10 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, and 5 steals. And if you want to throw in the 5 nickel, he had 5 turnovers too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
The
the point
the
guard quintuple
the,
nickel.
the nickel nickel.
Yeah,
Uh,
or just a quarter. He had a
yeah,
quarter.
he had a core there. Yes, I like that actually. That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, but like, there's so many good games in this one. Fred Thatch, 21 points on 3 of 5 shooting from three, 8 of 17 from the field. Just an outstanding game and threw in 13 rebounds as well. Gibson Jimerson, is he back? 5 of 9 from three, 22 points. Jordan Nesbitt in this one played really well too, 50% from the field. Didn't make his 3 point attempt, but I mean, he chipped in 2 assists and didn't turn the ball over. I loved everything about this game from the Billikens, other than the fact that we gave up a lead at one point.
Okoro too with 9 and 7, despite having 4 fouls. But I mean, and I think that was part of the reason that lead kind of compressed a little bit is because both Okoro and Linson started getting in foul trouble in the second half. Linson, who's definitely leading the team in fouls per minute, those guys were getting a ton of whistles in the second half that were not happening in the first. It's funny though that you say that Collins, quarter, quintuple nickel, triple nickel, whatever was getting the attention at the time. I had not even really noticed it because of Thatch putting up 21 and 13. Like that was the one really standing out to me, along with Jimerson really finding his shot. And I think with Jimerson, Rhode Island is, man, what a I would hate to be a Rhode Island fan with this team because there's so much talent on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at them and I'm like, man, they've got size, they've got talent at every position. They've got 2 guards who are really quick and talented. They've got those Mitchell twins who are just a load. I really like their personnel. And yet they have no purpose. They have no style. They have no cohesiveness. They do not play it as a unit at all. And that's true on both ends. And this is a really long-winded way of saying this is the first team in a while to kind of leave Jimerson alone a little bit on the perimeter. And they realize that you can't really do that because he's not only is he going to shoot, he's going to hit a lot of them too. And he goes 5 for 9 in this one. And it's been happening all year. Teams like Dayton and like that Richmond a couple weeks ago, who are just all over him, and he's not getting anything. Obviously he struggles. He just doesn't get many attempts. But then a team like this that blows assignments, that's kind of lax getting to the closing out on him, he feasts. So like there you go. I think Jimerson's season has been like that, and I think the stepping stone for him next year, the development goal should be both for the coaches and for Jimerson should be how do we get more production out of him on against defenses that are a lot better than this.
Yeah, I wonder, and we can get into it in the VCU game because, Gibson found himself pretty open in that game as well. But are we seeing the emergence of Fred Thatch starting to play a part in Jimerson, getting more looks? That the fact what we thought we would see with Perkins in the lineup, we thought Jimerson would get a lot more opportunities to shoot. With Fred starting to heat up, are teams having to pick their poison at this point now?
Maybe that's part of it. I was always kind of thinking that it would be Nesbitt by this point in the season, who would be that guy, without Perkins, who's taking a little bit of the pressure off of Jimerson, keeping defenses a little honest, spreading their resources a little bit thinner. But it has been Fred, who in the past, 6 weeks or so, who has emerged as that other guy on the perimeter who can be productive inside and out. I don't know. Maybe I guess I have to go back and look at some of these games more closely to see if that's really what's happening. But I don't know. I think teams are still doing that thing with Jimerson where they're kind of following him around until really these last two, not so much. VCU more in the first half. They changed some things in the second half. But yeah, I think that's really what it is.
I want to stick on Fred here for a minute because Fred Thatch really is one of the most unique. Like we had Jordan Goodwin, and he was incredibly unique player. I think Fred Thatch might be more unique in that, as far as like what we've seen come through St. Louis University, because there are times where I see flashes of Goodwin in him. There are times that I see flashes of Jet in him when he gets down the lane and uses his incredible strength to get to the hoop. And then there's the finesse aspect to his game, his 3-point shooting, a little bit of Mike McCall. What do you see in him that just makes him so special?
This is the version of Thatch that I saw at Sykeston, honestly, in high school, because he did everything for that team and they were great. He was an awesome high school player. He was a really solid role player for Brad Beal Elite in AAU. Like just, I mean, they were an excellent team when he was on. I mean, they always are, but on his Sykeston team, he just kind of did everything. And he actually had a quote. I don't know if it was after, I think it must have been after the Rhode Island game, because I know it was recently, where he kind of said, like, look, this is what the coaching staff thought I could do. This is what I know I can do. It's just taken me a lot longer to get here than any of us thought it would. So Fred is he's been very matter of fact about this sort of quote unquote emergence. He's kind of like, the pieces have always been here. I'm just finally putting it together, whether that's been health, earlier in his career, or just kind of figuring out how he fits in as his career has gone on. But I love that from him going, this is just what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm, sorry I've been so late to get there. I think that's such a winning mentality. And I don't know why I would expect anything different, because every time that dude talks, I'm so impressed by him. So that's kind of what I see is more what he did for his high school, where it's just kind of whatever you need. He just kind of does everything. And it's a little different in that role because, he was the guy for that high school team. And that hasn't necessarily been the case at SLU. But he's showing so many different facets of his game now. And it's so satisfying to watch, really.
Yeah, I love it. He's quickly, again, I think this year has been a test of like who my favorite player is on this team, because every day it's somebody different, and somebody, somebody does something that makes me fall in love with them like every day. In Fred Thatch going downhill and doing his drives to the hoops are so unique. Like I'm just saying, like it's just his unique way of getting to the rim. There's so many, jump stops, and he just uses his strength. And then, Gibson is just his relentless work ethic to get open and hit shots. Nesbitt and his unbelievable athleticism. Linson and when he's on, Linson is incredibly, he's just
efficient.
Yes. Thank
smart,
you, Jesus,
yeah,
Mary
yeah.
and Joseph. And then Collins, of course, is Pistol Pete Maravich reincarnated. It's just, yeah, that was an exaggeration, guys. Give me a break. Yeah, just and then Brandon Courtney makes a 3, and we're gonna talk about that. That was off the charts. Yeah, this game. I mean, what are you gonna do? You go on the road, you win by 6, you cover the spread, come home, good to go. I'm happy. I don't. Again, with the caveat, I wish we would have blown them out.
Yeah, I wish that too. And for a while, it felt like we would, as we said. And then in the last 12 minutes or so of the second half, it got a little tighter. A lot of calls that went our way for a while stopped going our way.
And we're going to talk about that in the next game.
Yeah, what college refs, man.
Do they have a meeting at halftime? Like what?
Well, they do. I mean,
yeah.
literally.
Well, no, yeah.
They go into a locker room, the 3 of them, and
What do you like?
Yeah.
Could we get them like? Is there something we can change where like they can't talk at halftime?
3 separate individual locker rooms.
I mean,
I just don't know if facilities are built that
No,
way.
yeah, no, I feel that, but like I just feel like put him in like the quiz show booth with the headphones on.
Yes.
Yeah, like
I'm all for that. Like
yeah, like Stemple or what was
you
his
could
name?
think
Stemple.
about what you're gonna do, but don't you guys like trade notes here?
Exactly. There's no reason to trade. Like I don't. I just think that you call the game the way you started it. Don't change anything, and let's keep going. Like we don't
Don't
need.
run them a stat sheet either. You know, they print those stat sheets out and
Do
slide
they
one.
give them? Do they give them to the refs?
I I'm almost certain they do. I mean, they must. You know, like how many times do you see fouls sort of regress to the mean over the course of the first 10 minutes of the second half? They must.
By the way, you mentioned stat sheet. One thing I learned from Rammer, his daughter actually is the stat sheet person at the games. So
Oh
shout out
wow,
to her for putting in hard work under BK.
nice.
Yeah, I hope BK isn't too demanding. Uh, now let's move on to VCU. I had a lot of fun in the first half of this game, much like we had a lot of fun for the Richmond game in the first half. This, I mean, the start of this game was awesome. I can't. I don't know if I've seen a more just beautiful moment in the middle of a Billiken game. Like, I don't know if I've seen a more beautiful moment in the first half of a Billiken game. Just a moment, specific moment, other than maybe the Conklin screen.
Mm,
But this Brandon Courtney making a three,
yeah.
you can't write it up any better than that.
That was amazing. I mean, I love when coaches start all of the seniors regardless of status. I'm kind of like, look, especially in a game like this where our seed was not going to change regardless. We're not going to get an at-large bid. There's no harm in starting Jones and Courtney in this one, and Linson over Okoro, which actually wound up being a pretty good matchup.
Yes, I thought
I
it was great.
Yeah, I was like, this is great. You started all the seniors, loved it. And so his three, which he, by the way, could not have done any better. I've watched like the replay multiple times now from multiple angles. And the head fake, the dribble, it was a very Jimerson-esque
I was you were
three-point
looking
attempt.
right in my eye. We were looking like we were both. We could see the wheels turning in our head.
It was just what a lovely play. I mean, that's you couldn't you couldn't have him do it any better than that. It was great. The bench went nuts, the crowd went nuts. Congrats to him. That was awesome.
I was a little worried that a technical was going to be called. You
For
don't. I
over celebrating.
I don't think you understand how far the bench came out.
Yeah, I mean, I
The bench
definitely
came
saw
out to
them.
the free throw lane.
I'm not sure that was caught that much on the broadcast, but yeah,
No, they came out like
you can get a T for that for like
yeah, like that was
crazy.
they were under the basket, I think, at one point. But since he did start, I'm gonna call him out. He lost his man on the next possession and nearly let VCU hit a three. So Brandon Courtney, work on that for the NBA Combine. If you want to improve your draft stock, you better work on your defense.
I mean,
Now,
he's an 80% career 3-point shooter, so he's got to be on somebody's radar.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the Globetrotters might be looking.
Yeah,
Uh,
always.
Congrats to Brandon Courtney. By the way, his senior night, and what we can talk about it later, but his senior night speech really. I mean, I think a lot of us who grew up Billiken fans, there are people that we wanted to be a Billiken. We wanted to
Mhm.
play basketball. Basketball was the first choice, and a lot of us most of us don't have that opportunity. So, a true big time shout out to him for his senior night game and hitting that 3-point shot and just that really set the tone, I think, for the arena too. If it's anybody else, I don't think that the arena blows the lid off like that. Like it was loud in there when he made that shot.
It's one of those things in the college game that the walk on doing the walk on just coming in and doing something at the end of a game is only so special, but to do it in the beginning of a game in a really meaningful way on senior day, and then honestly kind of set the tone for the half, because
He did.
you saw like the energy, you saw the positivity, you saw our guys really play loose in this half and go in up 17 at halftime. I mean, that's, like I it's kind of cheesy to say it, but like kicking off that half with a walk-on three-pointer that everybody wanted to see is, I mean, that's got to mean something.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Billikens could have fouled right off the hop and got Jimerson in. They could have,
Mhm.
but Travis Ford trusted his guy, and that speaks a lot to Travis Ford's character as a man, as a coach,
As
as
a
a
player's
mentor.
coach.
Yes, absolutely. He trusted, DeAndre Jones in there in the starting lineup. He trusted Brandon Courtney, who, I mean, Courtney's a great player. Again, Utah. I don't remember where I was listening to it, but someone was talking about, these walk-ons. Like, oh, they were talking about IUPUI. I think I was listening to Pick Central, Barstool Pick Central, and they're talking about IUPUI and how these guys had, 5 years. The guys on IUPUI would run us up and down the court, like the JCC or the MAC. They dominate. Brandon Courtney's a really good player.
Yeah, people forget that's not just some guy. He was an excellent high school player somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, which is the case with every walk on.
Yeah, absolutely. This was Martin Linson's best game in a month. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
gonna say it. And I think we all can. I think part of it can at least be contributed or attributed to his parents being in town and his brother and sister being in town. By the way, his sister is extremely tall. She is a tall, blonde German. Like I was up in the top of section 110 and looking down. I'm like, that girl's really tall. Like she's standing almost eye to eye with Linson.
And based on what I saw in that video they showed when his parents walked into practice, and he ran all the way across the baseline over there to give him some big hugs. Apparently, it's the first time they've been able to come see him play since he was at Valpo as a freshman. So that's awesome in and of itself. That's amazing. I know that's hard to do when your son is playing across an ocean during a global pandemic that lasts for 2 years. So really special moment. But his parents did not seem all that tall, from what I could tell. I mean, his dad seemed like a reasonably tall guy, but yeah, it's kind of funny that both their kids turned out that way. But regardless, you're right. This was his best game in quite a while. He's had,
The big
um,
body Benz is back.
that's right. Yeah, he's had a tougher time than we expected, kind of coming back from injury, a little more slowly. He's always been a little foul prone, and maybe even more foul prone when you're playing shorter minutes, getting some frustration fouls and things like that. It's really hard to kind of get a momentum in a game when you're not playing as much as you're used to. And was great to see him come out and really play well in this game. Rebound better than I've seen him maybe this calendar year, maybe this season. I mean, he really rebounded well. I know it's only 6, but that's in 19 minutes. And his minutes, unfortunately, were shortened because he went out early in the second half.
Yeah, he put his body on the line in this one too. He
Yeah,
really put forth energy, effort. The effort was on another level. The physicality was on another level. He played with a little extra something in this one.
he did. And when he went out to the locker room, what was his nose? I'm trying to remember
I
now.
think it was right above his eye.
Yeah, okay. So he had some blood. They went to the locker room. I guess he got stitched up a little bit, and they said he couldn't come back into the game. So I at that point, and I think I tweeted this at the time. It was like, okay, so now our options are, by this time Okoro had 4 fouls because he got 2 quick ones early in the second half, or Traore, who hasn't played in weeks.
Yeah.
So what do we do here? And we rolled with Okoro with 4 fouls, and luckily he stayed on 4. But it was kind of an interesting situation to be in. Not one that I expected us to keep rolling with Linson, who in his 19 minutes only had 1 foul, which is something we haven't seen out of him in a while.
Yeah, I really loved this game from the big body Benz. And the cut on the eye with the bandage makes for a great senior night picture, right?
It does. Yeah, that's hardcore. I mean, especially if you can kind of get the right angle where he comes back out, like sweating, bleeding, bandaged, and maybe like his parents are kind of over his shoulder in the seats. It's like it's very
Yeah.
poetic. So Anyway, man, good senior night for him. Glad his family was here to see it.
Jimerson continues to play well, and I posited the question that maybe the emergence of Fred Thatch really is taking a little heat off Jimerson because Fred Thatch didn't have a great offensive game, tough shooting day, but he still found a lot of ways to impact the game, including 7 of 8 from the line, and he really got to the hoop and made plays in this one. I thought he had. I'm looking. He had 4 rebounds, not unbelievable, but he still was forcing them to play defense, I think.
Yeah, and he's always so solid defensively. It's the kind of game that we're more used to out of Thatch than maybe the bigger number games that he's put up lately. These double doubles that he's never had before, that kind of stuff that we've been seeing out of him. His career has featured a lot of these games where maybe he's got like 7 and 4, or like in this one, 9 and 4. And it's kind of a quiet game, but then you just realize how rock solid he is at both ends. As far as Jimerson goes in this one, most of his production did come in the first half. And I think the difference in the second half wasn't necessarily that VCU had a guy chasing him around, tugging on his shirt or whatever, like we've seen from a lot of other teams. I think they just, the way that they ramped up their pressure on SLU in general in the second half made it harder to get Jimerson the ball. He was open from time to time. Maybe not quite like he was in the first half, but we just had a lot harder time moving the ball around in the second half. And I think that's where we kind of saw his production go down. I mean, I don't think he got his first shot attempt in the second half until like 12 to 15 minutes in. It was much later in the half than you would have thought after scoring so much in the first half.
You mentioned the VCU pressure, and I want to call that out because the VCU pressure both befuddled the Billikens, and the Billikens also took a lot of opportunity to torch the VCU pressure. I mean, I think the biggest moment you can think of is the Terrence Hargrove dunk. You also had the time Nesbitt was bringing the ball up, and he kind of slung the ball, and it went out of bounds. But you saw what he was looking at because it happened again with Hargrove, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hargrove was in that same position. So it appears that the Billikens knew that was available. That was part of the plan. It wasn't just Nesbitt throwing an ill-advised pass. But I thought the Billikens, and I when I talked to Rammer, he said that Travis, talked a lot about thinking that they could score on this VCU defense. And they certainly showed it in this one in how they found ways to dice up the pressure in a lot of ways.
Seeing the fact that we haven't seen VCU until the last game of the season, and they were not one of our home and home opponents this year. We played them late. I have not seen them nearly as much as I normally would have by this point in the season. Obviously we try and watch as much A10 here and there as we can, but for whatever reason, their schedule has just not lined up with me being able to watch them much in this game. And I don't know if this speaks to like what they do in general. Their pressure, they play that havoc style, whatever you want to call it. It's almost like they played it at like 70% in the first half. And then there were times in the second half, especially like kind of mid to late second half, where they turned it up to like 90, where they would cheat up a little bit more and really put more pressure on us. And we struggled with that more intense pressure, which does leave them more vulnerable if you could beat it. But the fact of the matter is we have a 5'11" point guard who's giving up size almost every game, and especially against this VCU team, which really does have some pretty good size at the 1 to 3 positions. Yuri at times looked a little bit frozen by that higher degree of pressure. And even with DeAndre in alongside him, there were times where they were, who's again a small guard, they kind of struggled. Even if it wasn't the speed, there were angles, like when you're giving up that much length, there were times where they would kind of either get trapped or they would, kind of lose an angle one-on-one with a guy. And I don't know. I mean, I know a team can't go full tilt for 40 minutes. But when VCU did turn it up just a little bit more is I think when we saw kind of the worst of it and really their comeback.
Yeah, you talk about the comeback and this is I really want to get into it and what is allowing teams to come back in games that we get a big spread early on. As we saw a little bit in um, in the Rhode Island game, and we definitely saw it Richmond. But first, I want to get into Jordan Nesbitt because Nesbitt played a large part of that Rhode Island game, and then he gets lost in this one. Is this in? I'm wondering if this is intentional and just a matter of so many cooks in the kitchen that sometimes we don't need Nesbitt, or what's going on there? Do we think?
I don't think it's that because as you have reminded people more than anyone else, we're without, our preseason conference player of the year candidate
Well,
all season long. Um, and we have not been playing Rashad Williams, who's another potential guard to have out there. Nesbitt did not have the best first half, didn't really do much. I think he only played 7 minutes and then didn't play at all in the second half. Do I have that right? I don't remember seeing him in the second half.
I don't either.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the box score now. 7 minutes in the game. He hit 2 free throws and had where is that? Yeah, he had a foul and a couple turnovers. So yeah, not his best first half, but like I don't know why he spends the whole second half on the bench. I don't know if he did something at halftime, if he got hurt. I have no idea, but I don't think it would have hurt us based on their big comeback to have him out there in the second half. Maybe it's not the best matchup for him as the first half showed, but there have been a lot of times you talk about him getting lost. Sometimes he's lost on the bench, like I'm trying to remember what other game that was where we blew a lead and it was kind of like, where's Nesbitt? I think that was another one that we wound up winning as well. And I can't remember who that was. So there's that. I just don't know why he's not getting second half minutes in some of these games. But otherwise, I still think we're kind of learning to just play with Nesbitt, and he's a freshman, so there's a natural freshman learning curve. But I do think he's got way too much talent not to get him more involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird. And yeah, I hope he finds his role, especially going forward into next season,
Yeah.
because he's going to his athleticism is so useful and his ability to score it. He can score at 3 levels.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the way Fred Thatch can, but he's going to be needed, especially if Perkins decides to move on. Yeah.
But so what else do you see? Why like this? Because clearly this is something that is happening in what feels like almost every other game that we're playing. Whether it's our losses or now, I mean, several games that we've won, we're just blowing leads. What else are you seeing that's happening here?
I don't know because I think I lose him too. Because when he does something, I notice it. I notice when he does something really well,
Mhm.
but I don't ever notice him doing not good things.
But I mean in general, why
Yeah, no,
like
I
with
think
us
maybe
losing?
defensive effort. That seems to be the going rate to end up on the bench in the Travis Ford era.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be, that's always kind of been the thing. Like you don't play D, you don't play
Mm-hmm.
unless you're Gibson, Jimerson, or Scott Highmark. Uh, but yeah, I don't really know. I wish I knew, but I lose him too. So I forgot about him during the second half.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I mean, it happens. When somebody's riding the bench like that. Do you think a lot of people seem to call out pace,
Hmm.
like slowing the ball down or not playing with the same pace? There have been times where I've wondered about that. Auburn comes to mind as one where we talked about maybe slowing it down a little too early in that one
Hmm.
with the lead. Against a team like VCU, it's honestly not up to you that much, though.
Right.
Like you're either beating this pressure and scoring an open bucket because you've beaten the pressure down the floor, or now you're stuck in their half court defense, which is a really solid half court defense. But one thing I will say, when we are playing in a half court set, I saw this a lot, and really it was glaring in person at Richmond. We seem to pass up too frequently, in my opinion, the first good shot.
Right.
Almost like we're waiting for the perfect shot. We pass up good shots. And I don't think, I don't know. I'm of the philosophy that you take the first good shot you have.
Right.
And I think this team is almost a little too patient, too unselfish. And they don't have enough of a killer's mentality. And that's really that, maybe more than anywhere else, that's where Perkins comes into play. Because if you give that dude the ball and he has an inch to operate, he's going to shoot it, and half the time he's going to make it. So that's also where Perkins comes into play. We don't have him out there.
Yeah, I thought we missed some good opportunities in that second half. I thought when we didn't turn the ball over in the second half, I thought we did get good shots for the most part. There were some not good shots, but I don't think that I don't think we were running bad offense. We just weren't making shots. I mean, if you look at points off turnovers, it's pretty steady on both halves. 6 in the first half for VCU, and 5 in the second half for VCU. So it's not like anything really changed. Unless I'm looking at that wrong. That's weird to me. I thought VCU had 20 points off turnover. Oh no, VCU only had 11 points off turnover. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so you had it right. I mean, we did have 18 turnovers.
Yeah, but to only give up 11, that's
right.
Fantastic. That's great. That's great recovery. That's great hustle, and good defense all the way around by the Billikens. I just, I think, like I said, nothing really changed in the second half. I'd love to see the turnover by half, but I don't have it in front of me. I would say it was probably worse in the second half.
Oh yeah.
I just think, we got good shots. We did. And you did see a couple times where we did try to push it a little bit in the second half, in the midst of the slowdown. Jimerson took a wide open 3 in transition and missed it.
Yeah, good shot though.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the same people that are complaining about slowing it down are going to be mad that Gibson missed that shot. But that's a good shot.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I'm looking at, we only had 13 3-point attempts in the game. I don't recall, out of those 13, and I'm looking at who shot what. I don't recall one that I didn't like. I mean,
none of them were at the buzzer or anything.
No, I keep
no shot clock violations that I can recall.
At least not on a 3,
or not like we ran too much off. Like we waited too long. We never had a shot clock violation. We didn't really. I don't recall us playing very often for the end of the shot clock. You know what I mean?
Right.
We got around, the 12-second mark, the 5-second mark, but we never really tried to run it all the way down and Yuri Collins isolation and figure it out. We never really did that. I thought, but I could be wrong.
No, I feel like where Yuri got into trouble more, like we've seen him get into trouble in some games where he gets too deep into the lane or whatever and doesn't really have an out. In this one, he did get caught up into trouble sometimes against that pressure, like further back, closer to half court or whatever. I thought that was a bigger factor here.
Yeah, I think he gets caught up in bringing the ball up slow, and I wonder how much it's fatigue. And that's what I loved about the first half. You had a lot of, they pointed out Nesbitt bringing the ball up. And by the way, that announcer's an idiot because, we actually did want Nesbitt to bring the ball up. And Nesbitt was not going to run the offense, you moron. You have not watched basketball before. It's like, I wonder how much it's fatigue and trying to save energy. It's kind of like, there's a training principle, 80-20 training. If you train at a low intensity so that your 20% high intensity training, it's that much more impactful. I wonder sometimes how much is, Yuri Collins saves his explosiveness so that at the times he is explosive, he's really explosive.
Hmm.
He really turns on that pace, and that change of pace is that much more impactful on the defense. The defense isn't ready for it, I guess. Lulling him to sleep is another way I would, in a
Sure.
way.
Yeah.
But I just think that I want to see Yuri Collins make more of an effort to bring the ball up quicker, get across the timeline quicker.
Yeah.
I don't care if you hold the ball at the top of the lane or, kind of run the weave a little bit. I really don't. If that's how you want to set it up, fine. But get across the timeline, before,
Yeah.
within 5-7 seconds and not 8, 9, 10 seconds. It's frustrating to me. I hate it. I hate not getting the ball across the timeline when you have an opportunity to. I really do. I don't get it.
I wonder how much of that in this game was him trying to overthink, not letting VCU have the game at their pace.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there were times where he was just kind of standing there with the ball, and it was like, Yuri, buddy, we got to get this over the timeline.
He does
And
that. I say
yeah,
that there are so many times I say that. I say
yeah,
Yuri. That is a consistent phrase that everybody who sits around me will know.
yeah. Well, I love his confidence, but at the same time, it's like, don't be Casey at the bat here. Don't dig yourself too big a hole. Like just go get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that we beat VCU, man. And
Yeah.
all time bad take from that idiot on Twitter.
A VCU idiot on Twitter is wow. I did not expect that.
Yeah, he said the VCU had their worst game, played their worst game of the year.
Yeah,
When I mean, and Rammer, by the way, again, just from the top rope, coming in and talking about, oh gosh, who was it on there for them? That Vince Williams, 26 points, yeah, worst game of the year right there. Ace Baldwin has 12. I mean, they had a great game, and I thought Slew defended the three fairly well. Some of it was just VCU really stunk it up from three, but I
yeah,
thought the Billikens defended really, really well.
yeah. I don't.
Minus allowing them to whatever they wanted in the paint the second half.
Yeah, I don't want that to get lost. Our defense, our half court defense in the first half was awesome.
Yes.
And it was mostly pretty good in the second half. Most, I say, with caveats of, I don't think we've been the best transition defense this year. And a lot of that was turnovers leading to some offensive chances for VCU, and maybe not locking down the defensive glass quite like we should have at times in the second half as well. But overall, this was a really good defensive effort.
Absolutely. Speaking, fighting through VCU's moving screens, man. Billikens deserve a lot of credit for that in general. I apologize to everyone in 108 for the first 10 minutes of the game yesterday, because I was incensed by the amount of hip checking VCU was doing on screens. It's ridiculous. It's worse than Obi Toppin. It really is. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, they apparently played a little hockey in the off season, old school '90s hockey.
Yeah.
It
No,
was.
no one. I've never heard anyone advocate for moving screen calls like you do. Whether
I
it's
hate it. Plant your mother effing feet. Plant your feet and set the screen like a man or a woman. Uh, you know,
yeah,
it's just like don't. That's like who was on? I saw a Twitter account that was like there a tweet from somebody talking about the NBA and how stupid it was that they just like the rule book has been thrown out the window in a lot of cases in basketball. It's weird. Like the base rules of the game have kind of been, you see a lot more steps allowed, especially in the NBA. But
yeah.
that's been almost my entire life. That's been an issue. But there's a lot of stuff that is just like it's like what do we have? There's a game. There are rules. This isn't Vietnam.
There are rules in the rule book. I've talked about charges before that I would not mind being ignored the way certain things are. But the question for me is, it's always like, does this make the game better or not? Like, letting a guy set a moving screen to me does not seem like something that would that oh yeah, we just kind of let guys do this now because the game flows better. Like, yeah, maybe you're eliminating a few whistles, but early on, if you let a guy know, like if your feet are moving or if your hips are moving when you're setting a screen at the top of the key, we're just not going to let that go tonight. They get the message early, you move on without that.
Yeah.
I think I don't see the downside of giving that one up. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. I think it's again, funny enough, I'm a player safety advocate. That's why I say that second person to a loose ball, if you make any contact, if you dive in on a guy all the way on the ground, already on the ground, that's a foul on you. I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care if you get the ball. You're the second man in, you dive on somebody already on the floor. That's not a jump ball. You're not getting that jump ball. You're late.
Yeah.
You didn't do the work. Same way I feel about moving screens. Player
Right.
safety issue. You start hip checking people. That's when you get knee on knee contact. That's when you get no. I'm not saying Justin Love moving screen, but that's the kind of stuff that leads to injuries like Kenyon Martin.
Yeah.
You can't have that. You can't. That hurts, man. Taking a knee to the calf or the knee on knee. Boy, that's brutal.
Yeah. Then it's 4-on-5.
Senior night ceremony was really awesome. I love that they give the managers so much time. Like they didn't even know they were going to be able to talk,
I didn't
like
get
on
to
the
talk.
microphone.
No,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, no one wanted to hear me talk in 2005,
well,
but
no, but apparently in 2021 or 2020 and 20 the last year and change, people love to hear you talk.
I would love to talk to. We're going to have to do this, by the way. We're going to have some managers,
Yes.
later generation managers on the show. Those guys don't know how good they have it compared to how we had it back
I
then.
would love. I think we just need to get. I just want. We need to have an episode where you bring on your whole crew from back in the day,
Yeah, that'd be fun.
and I'll just sit back and kind of throw pop in a dumb question here and there, and you guys can just chat. That would be just a ton of
Yeah,
fun.
we'll do that, and when we'll have a couple of guys from later too.
Yes.
From more recent years, because they seem to have a pretty cushy job now that I find myself jealous of all the time.
Did you guys
Uh,
match polos back in the day?
we did, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So I just.
But yeah, back to senior day. Tell us about
Yes.
that. How'd the
No,
ceremony
it
go?
was awesome. Perkins, by the way, just I mean, just a wonderful dude. Like he took the time to have. He didn't talk much, which I'm sure Billiken fans will read into. Awesome
No,
chant.
he never does. He's a
No,
low key guy.
no, awesome chant from the fans, and the players were egging it on too. One more year chants. Players were doing their best to egg it on, which was awesome to see.
I
Uh,
saw Thatch get into that more
yes.
than anybody, maybe.
And then I mean that's his buddy from St. Louis, man.
Hmm.
So I get that. Yeah, no, he took the time to have everybody wish happy birthday to his niece, which was really cute. God bless him for that. I will say, look, I give Guy Phillips a lot of shit. And while he stumbled over a lot of things, in the pregame and the postgame, the by far the best. I thought the best thing he's ever done as Billiken announcer was just over and over say, we know that, we wish Javante a speedy recovery, and we know that he will come back better than ever. And he just said, come back, and kept emphasizing, come back better than
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
Just awesome, funny, hilarious. Like I find him to be the least funny person ever. But that truly made me laugh and made me smile, and I thought that was perfect for the moment. Whereas his play-by-play of the kids' games at halftime, leaves a lot to be desired. He did a really great job, I thought, especially at the Perkins moment. Travis Ford was awesome. Again, that dude can make me run through a brick wall just by reading the phone book. He'd make it interesting. He talked a lot about Martin Linson and how what really attracted him to bringing Martin Linson in was Marty did his research about SLU, about academics at SLU. He expressed that it was a good place for him to continue his education here at SLU and not just his athletic career. And I thought that spoke a lot about Travis Ford and a lot about Martin. He brought out the coaches too as well, and thanked them for helping get him through a very tough year, as we all know. And I thought it was a wonderful tribute to not only the seniors but Fort Stewart, and the managers. I got to see, just on another note, seniors. It was alumni night too for the cheer squad. So I got to see one of my good friends, Taylor Nixon from college. She was there, so great to see her and her husband and her beautiful kids. Awesome. But it was good to see all the alumni, and the cheerleading alumni got to do the big flag at the beginning for the anthem and then perform during the game. So good for them, and happy to see people that, reaching out to alumni is incredibly important. I find it so annoying when, people leave SLU and then they never interact with the athletics again. They never go back to basketball games. That's brutal. I think it's a large part of why we don't fill arenas. Fill Chaffetz on a consistent basis. But I do want to rant one time before we move on to the A10 Championship. I got to rant about the 1818 bar in the Billiken Club, because this is nonsense. This is absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason to have the food on the same side. So if you look at the 1818 bar, there's a side without the bar, and there's a side with the bar, and then there's a side with tables, and you can sit down and eat. Before the game, Billiken Club has the side with the bar with a spread of appetizers. This is ridiculous. Nobody but Billiken Club members is allowed to go into that area. And that means nobody can go up to that bar and spend money at that bar unless you're a Billiken Club member. I watched two guys ready to spend at least $8 on a beer. That's the minimum cost of a beer. Ready to go into that bar and stand there and drink a beer. And they were told it was not open to the public. You have something on the concourse that is not open to the public. That's asinine. That's ridiculous. All you have to do is move the food over to the other side. All you have to do. That's it. That's it. Let the Billiken, bring some tables over for the Billiken. If they want to sit over on by the bar side, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Put it over there with all the tables. That's great. That's awesome.
It's an awkward setup because even though it's for the Billiken Club, it intuitively, just looking at it as a fan, you would not think that. It's not like an airport lounge with like a door that says like club access only or something like that. It's
right.
It's kind of open. I agree with you in that. Why would anyone walk up to that and think, oh, this is for club members only?
It's a bad look. It's a bad look when you turn people away from wanting to spend money. And it's a beautiful area. It's a great place for people to go. And that's what that's what I talk about, like why we have trouble filling the arena. We focus so much on the big money donors, and that's great. They do a lot of things for this university and this athletic department. The big money people are awesome. But, Lorenzini's is great because it's hidden. Nobody, like, the normal people, like me. Like, if I was going to a game, I wouldn't know Lorenzini's existed. That's fine. That's good. It's good to not let them know that it exists, because you're not showing, hey, oh, look at this exclusive area you can't go into. Like, you don't want people to know that they're missing out on something. You can't, that's like, we don't focus on bringing in new people and the average fan. It's that the experience is so not catered to the average fan. Even the t-shirt toss. Thank God they have the t-shirt cannon. Otherwise, the cheerleaders would give the t-shirts and the little souvenir balls to the same kids every week. Like, that's crazy. Like, stop just throwing it to the first 5 rows. Like, get the people that, are just off chance deciding to spend their money to come to a game once. Maybe they come again if they get a t-shirt, they get a ball. That's a great experience for a kid. it make it I don't know. That's my rant. I'm done.
Let's go to the bracket. Who's
Yes.
you're not going to get an argument from me.
No,
I
I
agree with all of that.
I just needed to go off for a minute.
Yeah, no, it feels good
because it sends me into a rage. It really does. Like my face gets red.
You are, if nothing else, the voice of the fan, the voice of the St. Louis Billiken.
I try to be. I really don't like to think I am, because I still think that I'm just kind of a nutcase and a chucklehead, and
that's all true too. But that's what makes you the voice of the fan and not the voice of the Billiken Club or the.
I love not being I've always loved being just average. I don't want to be the guy who sits courts. I really don't. It doesn't God bless Troy Robertson. God bless Chaffetz, Ross and Rich. God bless them. But I don't I like being with the people. I like sitting fifth row in the student section. I didn't like being in front. I thought it felt uninclusive. I don't know. But everybody should be I love the Billiken clap. I think it's cheesy as hell. I think the St. Louis chant is cheesy as hell. But it's great because it gets everybody involved. So I'm happy for that. That's great. They're making an effort. I love that kind of effort. But it's just when you're not catering to bringing in new fans, you always want to get more business. More business is good, not just get the same business over and over. It's like a hole in the wall bar that all they have is regulars. They never make money. I mean, you can't they just kind of are and never grow. Let's go to the bracket, guys.
Yeah, who's in the pillow fight this year?
Who's in the pillow fight? It's not the Wednesday night pillow fight. It really it's the Wednesday pillow fray, I guess. Yeah, it really makes me sad because I was gonna hang out and watch that. I was gonna make a night of it. It's LaSalle first game, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So you know what? I'm gonna translate all these to Central time. Noon on Wednesday, game 1, and this will be the feeder into the Billiken game. LaSalle and St. Joe's, 2 teams that the Billikens have both handled easily this year. And then at 2:30 Central Time, Rhode Island will take on the ultimate pillow fighter, Duquesne Dukes. And both these games are going to be on ESPN Plus. Who do you like? What do you like in these games? I want to know your guess, and then I'll give mine.
Yeah, having seen both of these, all of these teams except Duquesne recently, I got to go with Rhode Island over Duquesne. Like I said, they're directionless and aimless, but
they're not bad.
The talent is there.
Yeah.
And then St. Joe's over LaSalle. LaSalle has 3 players I really like and no one else at all that I like. St. Joe's at least goes a couple guys deeper than that. They've got, a good point guard. They've got a couple good wings. They shoot a lot of threes. That's the kind of team I just looking at the 2 of them, I'd rather have LaSalle win because SLU gets the winner of that. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
How about you?
By the way, shout out the Martelli Mafia. St. Joe's just what a dumpster fire that is. I think it's St. Joe's and Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I just don't see LaSalle. I mean, sorry, Gola boys. I just don't see them pulling it out. I'm happy with either on that one, LaSalle or St. Joe's. I really don't care. But who would you prefer to play?
LaSalle. Yeah, I'd rather play LaSalle. They are technically the higher seed, but I still think they're the weaker opponent. So obviously we'll run down the seedings. And then we'll talk about who maybe has the biggest draw or the best draw, who has the worst draw, and who could surprise. Number 1 seed goes to Davidson. 2 seed Dayton. 3 seed VCU. 4 seed St. Bonaventure. 5 seed is your St. Louis University Billikens. 6 seed goes to the Richmond Spiders. 7 seed George Washington. 8 seed Fordham. God bless Fordham. Kyle Neptune for Coach of the Year. I'm sorry. I'm a Neptune fan at this point. George Mason, number 9.
Number 10, UMass, and as we mentioned, Rhode Island 11, LaSalle 12, St. Joe's 13, and Duquesne 14. Who do you think benefited the most and has the best draw to the final?
Um, it might be an obvious answer, but I kind of like Davidson's draw here. Being the one seed, obviously they're going to get an 8 or a 9, Fordham or Mason in the in their first game, which is I guess you'd call it a quarterfinal game. And then they'd have either Bonaventure or us in the semifinals. And Bonaventure has been a little dinged up, and they only, as we know, they like that starting five. They like to ride with them, and all of a sudden they've gotten some dings lately. They are hot. They've played really well until I think the last game that they lost, but I kind of feel like they might be a little vulnerable. Maybe they've just kind of had a hiccup before the late surge here, but I think their wear and tear is hitting them. And then SLU, as much as I love SLU and would love another shot at Davidson, um, Davidson does a lot of things that give us issues, and they obviously smacked us pretty hard last time we saw them. So that's all the way to the finals before Davidson has maybe somebody they don't match up as well against. So I like their draw in this tournament, but again, they're the one seed, so maybe that's a little too easy.
Yeah, I actually think that Fordham, I think Fordham or Mason are gonna actually give Davidson trouble. I think Davidson having the double bye and sitting, I think that's gonna be an issue for them. I think Davidson will come out winner. I think it's gonna be a lot closer, and I think it's gonna be a bit of a squeaker, just because it always seems that way for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I think Dayton has a decent bye or a decent draw. But I don't know.
I agree. I think actually you're right in that. I think George Washington UMass is the 7-10
Yeah.
is a little bit easier draw than that 8-9. But I kind of look at the higher seeds, when answering
Sure.
the whole
No,
question. Yeah.
absolutely. Who do you think could go on and steal a bid that's not in the top four? I mean, let's say, yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I really don't see anybody outside, or I don't see Richmond doing it. Obviously,
Hmm.
St. Louis, we have a history of doing well in the tournament. I think Travis Ford is a great motivator, and he's kind of built for tournaments for whatever reason.
Hmm.
But I just don't see anybody outside the top five making a run at this.
If I were to pick one, I probably would go with Richmond actually. I'm gonna kind of look it up on the fly, but Richmond VCU in the quarterfinals,
Mhm.
assuming Richmond wins their first game, is actually kind of pretty intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a crosstown rivalry, so there's a lot of history there. So I just think those are teams where that would be, look, I'm not a better, but that would be a hard one to kind of handicap, I think. Um, Richmond did lose to VCU twice this season. One of those was a 2-point game. I just think that third game against them could be kind of a dangerous one. So when I look at the whole bracket, I kind of wonder, like, hey, if Richmond were to slide by VCU in their last matchup against them, you never know against a young team like Dayton in the
Mhm.
semifinals. Um, and then you've just got one more to win from there. So I would probably go with Richmond if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I like that. That
That
that no,
wasn't
that
so.
makes sense. I definitely think Richmond. Richmond seemed to play Dayton really tough,
Yeah.
and Dayton barely squeaked out that win. I kind of like SLU's draw, and that it's hard to beat a team three times, and I don't think Bonaventure is the type of team that really
Mm.
can win three games against a team in a season. I mean, you look back at the what was it 20 the year we won the A10 championship, we beat VCU three times, right?
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
don't that's a team that can beat a team three times. That high powered defense, or the very efficient defense, the smart team. I just don't think Bonaventure has it to beat SLU a third time. So I'm expecting us to play in the semifinal against Davidson, and it'll be interesting to see what adjustments the Billikens would make.
It would be in both of those games because Bonaventure really looked like they had our number in both of those games. Like they looked like they had us really well scouted. We played right into their hands in both games against them. they were very frustrating games to watch. So adjustments is really the key word, because
But
both
we
of
do
those
have a
games,
lot of film to look at.
yeah, there's no shortage of film experience, whatever. But both of those games, against Bonaventure, and then also the Davidson game. I mean, you're talking about 3 games where we looked really bad. So even though you look on paper and maybe this path doesn't scare you, it would take a pretty serious reversal 2 times in a row, for us to get there. But I don't know. I think it's a pretty open tournament. I think I look 1 to 6 or so and think all of those teams could reasonably win this thing. And then if I'm looking outside of the top 6, it's somebody who could kind of go on a run. I wonder if Mason gets by Fordham, and then maybe a couple of Mason's guys, Oduro, as one of my conference player of the year pick. Maybe he just really starts hitting his full potential in this, and that's a team that could be a little scary, I think, too.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That's a solid point. Speaking of Mason, let's run over to the women's side of things. Just it's over. The long nightmare for the women's
Yeah.
basketball team is over. They dropped their first round game 65-50 to George Mason in the A10 women's pillow fight. Poor shooting in this one really sunk the Billikens. Under 30% from three. I think they shot under 40% from the field. Julia Martinez did have a big game though with 16 points, but really was the only true bright spot in this one.
Yeah, not a whole lot to be said. This was I guess it was the second game of the women's tournament, and I had some meetings at work and stuff, and couldn't really dig into it as much as I'd like to have. But it's pretty clear, that they just kind of ran out of gas. This game was tied at halftime. It was a low scoring first half. I think it was just 26-26 at halftime.
Yeah.
But then Mason really turned it on in the second half and ran away with this thing. So look, this was a horrible season for SLU in terms of luck and injuries. Everything went about as badly as you could imagine, so I really feel for this team that kind of looked at the conference this year and thought they had a shot to really compete for a top 3 or 4 spot, and really challenge for the tournament, and have a shot to make their first tournament ever. So it kind of breaks my heart that they had to deal with all those injuries, and that there are players like MST didn't get to play this season, and other players whose seasons were cut short. I give this team a lot of credit for just not quitting, because they could have lost out down the stretch in conference, and they didn't. They won several games, and they did that with 6 or 7 or 8 players. And so really credit to the heart of this team. They do graduate. Speaking of senior nights, Kaija Harbison and Miriama Smith Traore, MST as we affectionately call her here, will not be back next season. But everybody else will, and they've got some good talent coming in. So two really good players, big shoes to fill. But yeah, you're right. The nightmare season is over, and onward and upward for them.
Absolutely. On the men's soccer side, a little bit of update for you. 3-1 win versus Ohio State. This was played in Indianapolis. I believe it was played at that facility that they played a couple games at during the 2020 spring season. John Klein got a goal. Eric Leggett got 2 goals in this one. They will take on St. Louis City Next Pro Friday 6:30 at Herman Stadium. I believe it's probably free to go see. So I may make a run out there. Who knows? We'll see how my Friday goes. A great article in the Post-Dispatch from Stu Durando regarding Billiken alumni Alex Sterenberg. He is of Ukrainian descent, or is Ukrainian. I don't know if he's a Ukrainian citizen. But his father is still over there in Ukraine right now. I believe near Kiev or Kiev. I never know how to pronounce it. So, so go check that out. we texted back and forth about a lot of people, a lot of Billikens that had played over in Russia, played over in Ukraine. You know, we talked about Justin Love already in this episode. Justin Love played over in Ukraine, right?
Famously, I mean, that's there's an all-time great video. It's about a 4 or 5 minute clip of Justin Love playing in Odessa in Ukraine, and this, I mean, it's got everything. I mean, it culminates in just, well, it really isn't even the end of the video because it's hilarious after that. Love hits a long three to win the game, and it erupts in pandemonium. But even before that, you've got cheerleaders wearing outfits that would never pass muster over here in the States. You've got a crazy looking shark mascot that appeared to be interfering with the basket while an opponent was shooting free throws. After Love hits the shot, you've got a fat guy running out on the floor with no shirt on, slapping his shirt against the floor. It's one of the all-time great videos. And yeah, it really, like, we were kind of texting back and forth, like, you have these realizations over time, like, oh my god, yeah, we've had players over there. And he spoke really highly of his time in Ukraine. And I think actually George Washington has a recent graduate who's playing over there right now who was stranded over there. So
And then we had Fordham has a Ukrainian on the roster.
right. Yeah.
Um, and look, I mean, there's a long history of players that have been over here, war torn refugees. You know, Robbie Christo, you know, is pretty well known to be a Croatian immigrant, refugee. You know, you had Sadiq Mohammed, a refugee from, help me out. What country?
I'll have to look it up, but
Yeah, I forget.
don't forget
It's
about Vidad.
Vidad, yes,
Yeah.
Bosnian refugee. You have, I mean, gosh, I mean, Isaac Ohanen. I mean, that's a country that's been, you know, in the middle of a war since I've been born, my
Isaac
entire life.
Isaac would tell you about yeah, I'm trying to think of what he would say about his military service, whether anyway, yeah, Israel has compulsory, everyone has to serve a certain amount of time in the military over there. But so yeah, he always had interesting stories as well. But yeah, it's a good article to kind of put things in perspective and realize, like,
Definitely.
just how many impacts globally that something like this has. So obviously all the best to him and his family.
On a positive note, Austin FC beats, I believe, Miami. Inter
Yeah.
Miami today. I actually saw it on ESPN Plus right after it ended, which really bummed me out. So I missed the actual game. I'm pulling up uh, the uh, the box score right now. Hopefully, it looks like. I'm sorry, guys. This is terrible. It does not. Yeah, Kip Keller did play in this one. He did start at left center back. Um, and yeah, they drubbed Inter Miami. So well done to it was. He didn't score in this one, but Druisi had 2 goals for Austin. Cascante scored. Finley scored 2 goals as well. So hey, Kip Keller continuing, um, you know, to play well for Austin FC has only given up 1 goal in 2 games.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're really killing it so far. And it's nothing but positive reviews. It's really hard in the early going to assert yourself as a center back. Like, it's when you're putting up 5-0 wins like they did against Cincinnati and a 5-1 win here, everybody's going to be talking about the goal scorers. But there's a little piece in the Austin American Statesman today talking about their weaknesses are hard to find right now, talking about how solid he's been at center back. So yeah, it's just great to see. I guess Julio Cascante would be the other center back that he's alongside, and people just have talked about them being rock solid. So that it's just awesome to see Keller, who kind of, I don't think anyone realized him to be as hyped as he was going into the draft, and then going so high and now really fulfilling his potential right away.
Yeah. Let's see. I Yeah, Isaiah Parker did not play for Dallas. He didn't make the bench either. So interesting to see what goes on with Isaiah going forward. But hopefully he finds a bigger role with FC Dallas.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but he's young. He's young and so talented. He'll get there.
Sorry, I'm trying to find stats for Robbie Cristo too. Now that we mentioned, yeah, no, I'm trying to find it. He's playing for the St. Louis Ambush Indoor Soccer. Uh, he's playing really well. They lost today to the best team in the league, that being the Florida Tropics. But I'm pulling up his stats now. My computer's running a little slow. Sorry, guys. He's played 17 games, 16 goals, 7 assists, 23 points on 53 shots. He's playing really well. He's scored quite a bit. 2 game-winning goals. He hasn't registered a hat trick yet, but it looks like in his last 5 games, he's scored at least 2 goals. So he's really putting up numbers now. For an Ambush team that's kind of trying to find themselves. They had a bit of a skid, and he's doing well in indoor. So I think he's happy to be home and happy to play on a team and just play soccer and have fun. So happy for him. Moving on to baseball, they had a 4-game set with the Northern Colorado Bears. They played 3 7-inning games and 1 9-inning game. And by the way, I think I tweeted out, or did I text you this, that I think we talked about it on the last podcast.
Yeah,
I think
right.
college baseball should play 7 innings. I just think with how bad the bullpens are, you could, I'm sure it's a different experience down in the South. But I think up north, it makes more sense with the cold and the bad, Anyway, baseball's now 4-6 after going 3 for 4 on the weekend. They lost Friday 5-2. Colton Hutt got the losing decision for the Billikens in that one. Second game was a 7-inning, 8-7 win. That was Saturday during the day. A lot of people out, did the doubleheader between the Billiken basketball game and baseball game. Cusimano was out at that game to watch his son. His son's on the team, actually.
Yeah.
Logan Schmidt got the win in that one. Cameron Farrer got the save in that one. Pete, tell them about the evening game Saturday and then the Sunday game.
Yeah, so evening Saturday, Scott Youngbrand gets the win in a 7-1 7-inning win over. It was. I love seeing this all weekend. By the way, UNC, yes. Northern Colorado. It was kind of like, oh wow, Sluice smoking UNC in baseball, and then wait a minute, yeah, Northern Colorado, and then Sunday 13-0 7-inning win, and Trevor Harris gets the win in that one.
Yeah, I think those Sunday games really display, like the late weekend games, you can tell who really has the better depth, especially on the pitching end of things, because, you look at the beginning of the week and the Billikens give up 5, or UNC probably has the better ace on the staff, but you get to the end of the week and now you're running it, Northern Colorado is running into the deeper parts of their pitching staff, and pitching staffs in college stink, man. Besides the top 3 guys, they're young and not, there's no experience, and they are bad. So that's why you get these games like we talked about where you'll go. That's why it's interesting to play 7 innings, because you get into the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and you're looking at there's 30 runs are scored just in those 3 innings after it being a 1-1 game up until the 6th, and you're like, I don't get it.
Right.
Coming up for the Billikens, they're on a 4-game homestand, I believe. Western Illinois, 3 p.m. on Tuesday. That drives me nuts that these games are at 3 p.m. But I get why. I'm not mad at anybody. It just stinks. Purdue Fort Wayne comes to town for a 3-game weekend series. It'll be interesting to see how that gets played. I know some colder temperatures are trying to come back into the St. Louis area. 3 p.m. Friday, 2 p.m. Saturday, and 12 p.m. on Sunday. Softball, tough weekend as they continue to slide. They are now 3-11 on the year, Peter.
They are, yeah. They had a kind of a rough go of it down at what they call this, the Ole Miss Classic in Oxford, Mississippi. Obviously, Ole Miss is the SEC is tough when it comes to these sports. Baseball, softball, and then they're playing a few Southern teams here. So I know it was a tough slate, but they came out of it without a win, unfortunately. So it wound up being a long weekend for them down in Oxford.
Yeah, just a really, really unfortunate weekend for them. Upcoming, they have Northern Kentucky University on the 8th. By the way, I hate the month of March when I'm trying to type things into Google Docs because it shortens everything. Like I tried 3-8 and it shortened it, or it made it really small, like it was a fraction.
Everything's 3/4.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. Northern Kentucky on the 8th, 2 p.m., and then Fordham on the 12th and 13th come to town. They start A10 play, which is weird because then they go like 2 weeks without playing another A10 game.
Yeah.
Pete, anything that you saw this week that we need to talk about before we let our listeners go?
Very quickly, just men's tennis lost at Purdue. Women's tennis won against Eastern Illinois. What I really wanted to draw people's attention to are the signed men's basketball players who are still playing. Kellen Thames, his team lost in the district semifinals, Class 6, District 3, Missouri State High School semifinals. They lost to Francis Howell. So their season is over, finished 17-11. And Nick Kramer and SLU High won District 1 in Class 6. So they're still going, and they will play CBC for a third time this season on Saturday out at Lindenwood. So if you can go check them out, every game could be the last one for them this year, but it is the quarterfinals for Missouri. And then our JUCO signee, Sincere Parker, led Moberly area community college to a district championship, which means they get an automatic bid to the JUCO Division I national championship in Hutchinson, Kansas, which starts on March 14th and wraps up on the 19th. That's actually a really good event. And so they've got an auto bid to that, and that's a big deal. And he was the Region 16 player of the year. So he's a big reason, the main reason for their success this year. So I doubt we have any listeners out in Hutchinson, but I think those games are all streamed. So try and catch these guys playing if you can. We're really excited about all three of them.
That wraps up the week that was in Billiken Athletics. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP. We also appreciate any and all suggestions you might have for the show. Also, thank you to anyone who just randomly comes up to me and says, "Hey, great podcast." Even if you just say that and keep walking and I never see your face, I die. I get a little like teary eyed and But please go subscribe to the show on all platforms if you haven't yet. Check us out on YouTube. It really is nice. It's fun. I like that, you get to, watch us. I mean, if you while you're working or whatever, throw it on your TV. Everybody has the YouTube app out there. If you haven't left us a review anywhere, go ahead and drop us 5 stars and leave us a review. As always, Pete, go Bills, man.
Go Bills.